coin flip was won by HLE, and they have elected to hop onto the blue side today to begin our best of 5 final. Who will be the first stand, first time champion? It's what we're about to find out.
Well, bans already kicking off here. Poppy as well as Skarn are going to be banned out here by HLE. 80 carries being targeted over by Casey. We'll be interested to see if Vi prio is going to be really high because we're coming off of an insane Vi game yesterday from Peanut. And Zeka was going crazy on the Akali. These melee champions really were looking unstoppable.
I'm pretty sure that if KC don't ban it, Hanwha Life are going to pick it. They've been very adamant. They love leaving the Vi open when Skarner is up, but considering they abandoned themselves, I'm fairly certain that's just going to be the early priority pick here. If they continue the trends that we've seen of them in group stage.
I do think that Rumble is more valuable. I think as soon as you first pick Rumble, they have to pick the Vi away, because otherwise you get Rumble Vi and then you just win.
Well,
That's
yeah,
kind of how it goes.
but I do think that that actually provides an issue, and I actually really like this because I agree with you. This is going to be a Rumble lock-in, most likely, and Yike's performance on the Vi just hasn't been up to par. So I feel like you need to pick that away, but just banning it is the safest bet, and there is the Rumble that you mentioned earlier.
I'm just so curious, you know, obviously if you're not going to ban Rumble on red side, you know that it is going to be locked in. So what is the answer here from Canna? We have seen things like Galio in the past, you know, be a strong answer, but it doesn't feel like Canna's style. You know, he is really much more of that kind of aggressive carry style player.
I feel like he could just lock Jayce.
That's most likely.
It's it's a fantastic champion for him, and I think that this team sort of lives and dies by whether Canna can get an advantage. And if he does have a champion like Jayce, there's certainly a chance that he could get that one done. As that is a Maokai. Maokai has been very, very strong. And so he's going to be locked away here. Theoretically flexible, but likely going to Yike. And now will we see the Jayce pickup?
And that's a twofold winner, as there did feel like kind of a no-brainer. Canna's Jayce, as mentioned before, we are playing Fearless, which means that it also is denied from Zeus. And the same for the Maokai. Those are two picks that if Hanwha ever get their hands on them, you're going to be feeling very, very scared. Not going to be the case here. I'm wondering if we're going to go towards something like the Zinza, which still very high in priority
as well.
Yeah, that's
like
the other one.
Rumble, and then you could even look towards another melee mid here potentially for Zeka. Like you have that triple melee top side that can be really strong, but Wukong also really powerful. You know, isn't maybe as easy as that kind of Vi combo with the Rumble, but obviously does have that lockdown, you know, to be able to drop the equalizer down as he's going forward. And we saw Peanut look really, really good on it yesterday.
It also really complicates the pick for AD carry here because Azrael's already been taken away. That is one of the safer choices. Do note, by the way, Caliste is still open, but I do think you're going to be feeling a lot more scared trying to play that into the amount of backline damage that's there. That Hanwha Life is available, and the Caliste really has been kind of hit or miss. Was very, very extremely high in power early on, but has somewhat dropped us. I do really like the Taliyah. I think it's both a strong pick into the Azir to break or block angles for the shuffle, as well as making it harder for Wukong to actually get into the backline.
I mean, this is kind of just a run back of their draft yesterday, game 1 against Top, but they have the exact same first 3 picks. It was the Rumble, the Wukong, and the Azir. The Ezreal is banned out, but then they paired the Ezreal with Delight's Alistar, and it was like total comfort, you know, besides maybe the Wukong for Peanut. It's not necessarily like his most played, but still, this is basically the same game 1 draft that they wanted yesterday, and they're just getting it exactly again here.
We'll just have to see what Viper is going to be playing there towards the bottom side. Already a few things banned away, but it's a turn of attention towards Delight and his champion pool. His rel to be taken away. An interesting one, because I sort of think of Alistar and Rakan, but maybe just having a bit of a different idea and wanting to get rid of like an MF rel combo because of the amount of wombo you can already see here on the HLE side.
There's also the fact that I think playing the Rakan into Maokai and Taliyah can feel quite rough, so maybe they don't feel quite as scared. I wonder when they wanted to prioritize the Leona though, because I do think that Leona for the Hanwha Life comp is going to feel really, really great. They obviously need a primary source of engage. And there is also the opportunity here for Hanwha Life to get a counter pick on the support otherwise. As the Jhin gets taken away, and my expectation is that KC is going to save it for Targamas, who does have a pretty eclectic champion pool, just lock in an 80 carry here on 4, and then we'll see what the response from Hanwha is going to be.
I mean, there are a lot of 80 carry bans, but I mean, Ashe is still available, MF is still available, Kaisa if you want to play aggressive. We've seen Sever come out a couple times, but you know, to me, I'm thinking, okay, well, Ashe is taken away. Now I'm thinking it could be things more like the MF, more like the Kaisa, which have been, you know, 2 fairly popular picks. I'm not the biggest fan of the MF. to be honest. But I do think, you know, it does still have a lot of power in the early laning. You can get prio in the 2v2. You can control mid lane and be able to move around the map through that. Though it didn't really work for Jackie Love here, when you watched him play in the LPL, I thought Top really played around that pick very well.
I would like to see an AD carry pick, though, because I feel like getting drawn into that trap of picking something like a melee support means that you can just get enchanted there on the bottom side of the map and really run into trouble, as the MF wasn't the top choice.
Yeah, the only other angle, which we haven't seen at the tournament thus far, would be that Xayah Rakan combo, right? We do know Hanwha love it, just hasn't really seen it this far in the tournament. The MF, it's really one of those picks that in theory sounds great. They have a good amount of CC already. I'm sure they'll be able to get an engaged support to end on as well. The Maokai in particular creates a great combo of the Taliyah to set up as well. But I do really think that trying to play any team fight later in the game, when this is the setup that Hanwha have, especially now bolstered by those two champions, it's going to be so hard for Caliste. We saw Jackie Love have this exact same issue.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I do think, you know, you want lockdown with the MF, but at the same time, I feel like a pick like Renata kind of goes pretty hard here, as you do have 4 champions that are kind of diving in. Can be actually really strong, you know, in the 2v2 as well. It can be tough for Alistar, but will be interesting to see if they just go towards Leona. That would be kind of the more standard option. They are going to go in towards Rakan instead.
Oh, I find Rakan so difficult to play into this combo. There's just damage coming out of everywhere, right? And so Rakan being as squishy as he is, he's going in with the quickness, trying to do stuff. He could just be swatted like a fly.
I do agree with you. But again, in the context of the best of 5, this is a great pick because it also takes it away from the line, right? And that's something that I think make these drafts really interesting. I do really worry about Casey's ability to fight team fights later on, even with the, I think, great disengage that they have with the Gate from Jayce, with the Maokai, and with the Taliyah, because there is just so much damage coming out from Hanwha.
No, I agree, but you know, the Rakan, I will say, very explosive as far as the engage, and if you can get in with R Flash, you know, follow up, twisted advance, MF bullet time over the top, you have the seismic shove, like there is a lot of CC. If you can actually get that prime target, if you can catch Viper or Zeka and get them 100-0, that feels like it's going to be pretty important here for KC, and if they can't, it's going to be tough because there's so many threats over on the other side.
Biggest window for KC for me is that bot lane matchup. That should be one that is very, very heavily favored just by the virtue of Alistar not being a champion level 1 and MF being so much stronger than Kai'Sa in the laning phase. And that, to me, is going to be the main leveraging point. We'll see where Yike paths, what they can actually get done early game. Because even though Caliste and Targamas started off slow, they have been looking a lot better as the tournament has progressed.
Yep, just have to see. It's a lot of comfort on both sides of the Rift. And with Fearless, I think this is going to make Game 2 even more exciting, given the fact that there is a lot that has been used up in this first draft. But let's get into it. Game number 1. This is so cool. We have a European team here, and we've nailed the fan chants. That is exactly what you want to see, as well as Summoner's Rift here in game number 1.
Yeah, what if it wasn't Summoner's Rift?
I know. What if we like...
Turns out, surprise, it's ARAM.
It's in Arena, baby. Which is where, like, if you try and look up anyone's solo queue history at the moment, it's really, really difficult because there's so much Arena. It's absolutely absurd.
But Arena is just objectively great. Like, I've been playing a ton as well.
I never said it wasn't. It's just really hard to scout now. That's all I'm saying.
That's fine. You know, we don't need scouting. It's Fearless. We're going to see weird stuff anyway if we get to the depths.
Top of the morning to you, Yike, says Peanut.
I did really like the little moment between Vladi and Zeka.
I also respect that no one broke the truce.
No, exactly.
Because if you break the truce, it's 5 years of bad luck.
It is a bad omen.
And it's a guaranteed sweep.
Both emoting as well. I think it was Crab versus Thumbs Up. You'd love to see it.
I think, as well, that was normally a top laner thing, you know, where you'd be standing in the pixel brush and you'd sort of just be hanging out together.
By the way.
Yeah, no, but it was the top laners that broke the truce as a collective lane.
It's the shared sense of pain that top laners have experienced. The shared trauma of lane swaps, bonds you together.
Yeah, it's very true.
Yeah.
Like, we saw that a lot yesterday. I think it was Zeus was 0-4 while 369 was 0-5.
That's brotherhood right there.
It was definitely brotherhood. It was beautiful and also tragic. As already KC with some control here towards the bottom side, just as you guys predicted.
Yeah, as expected, not going to have the best of times here in the early level 1s, just because the fact that Alistar's there, but even Kai'Sa obviously doesn't really have that much that she can do against the MF. Sustained from Rakan, also going to be feeling really nice there for Caliste and Targamas. Both junglers pathing towards the bot side of the map. Obviously, for Peanut, he's just going to be looking to get to 6 as soon as possible. And I think that's where the Hanwha live comp does also really start to make its mark known. Whereas for KC, I think even early on, if you do find a possible angle for a skirmish, there's a good amount of lockdown throughout the Rift, particularly if Vladi and Yike can sync up.
The thing that I like about this on the KC side, you already mentioned the fact that, you know, the fearless denial of the Rakan. Well, it's also Taliyah, Maokai, all sorts of other things, as Yike's going to move in and look to steal away this Brambleback. And with the fact that Targamas and Caliste have such control of this bottom side, Peanut does have no way of getting over here unless he goes for a cheeky smite steal.
He's on a ward.
Yeah, everyone's on a ward. This is known throughout the Rift. As, all right, some aggression here as Viper forced to flash already. Caliste going to trade that one as both AD carries happy to lose those. And I believe we had just Yike coming in and taking all of Peanut's stuff, although Peanut does still have a slight advantage as far as farm.
Yeah, and part of the problem with that is, yes, they have bot lane prio, but because they left lane to actually go help him at the red buff, that meant that the earlier level 3 came through for Viper and Delight, and that costed double sums there for Caliste. Yes, it is traded for the flash on Viper and the ignite on Delight, but still, that is a 2v2 you're supposed to be winning.
He doesn't have smite! But wait,
he doesn't.
Peanut.
Yeah, Peanut's going to move on over, and Yike's going to flash away. Peanut does grab himself a blue, but Yike picked one up as well, so it is going to be the Maokai pretty happy.
And by the end of that, I think that Hanwha Live's going to be pretty happy about that, right? Viper used his flash very aggressively there. He dodged away from the grand entrance from Targamas, and I think it's as you're saying, I think they just overstayed slightly maybe. The Maokai obviously doesn't get through the jungle quite as fast as some other champions, so he actually spent a good amount of time on the red buff.
Yeah, they just lost that experience.
Exactly. And Viper and Delight still gonna have to, I think, play it safe, particularly for Viper, because that flash is actually valuable into the amount of lockdown that's available. But it does mean that invade doesn't actually end up panning out, right? Because it's just a trade of buffs.
Yeah. I mean, I was more nervous for Viper when Yike still had flash, but then the re-invade, I think, is extra important because, you know, really, who's going to come and punish it? Likely, if anyone, it would be the Maokai. You know, flash was in advance, that not being available. You know, maybe Targamas can still set something up. But the same is true for Caliste, and Peanut does have his flash available, so definitely both of these bot lanes do have to play a little bit careful.
And it does look like Peanut's going to be able to double scuttle as well. And again, for Wukong, you just want to get to 6 as soon as possible. Wukong is a really interesting jungle champion that he actually scales obviously insanely well into the team fights, but he does need a good amount of both experience and gold. So getting those extra early camps is quite good.
They're TP bot. They have 3 bot here, so this actually kind of has to work.
Well, see whether it does. Zeus, only level 5, wants to try and cook this wave as best he can, but he doesn't have the equalizer. There's the flash. As Canna, to the skies. Targamas tanking things up beautifully, and that is going to be first blood over to Caliste. That's exactly what you want to see if you're a KC fan.
And the lane swaps, you know, they might be going in the early game, but there's still one being done there, and Zeus just doesn't seem to be ready. The fact that Canna is able to hit that early shock blast is already bad news for him, but he misses out on a huge wave as a result here, and KC going to be very happy with that play.
Yeah, at the very least, he had his teleport, so he's able to teleport back and, you know, get some of that experience. But definitely a pretty bold play, you know, because Kaisa and Alistar were already pushing on top side, so they're giving up waves on top side to go for this dive bot. They had to make it work, and were able to do so.
And with that, though, especially if Hanwha Life is able to actually get all the grubs, I think in the long run, it's a bit of a more even trade because, as you mentioned, a lot is invested, and Zeus is able to still TP towards the top wave to not fall too far behind as Vladi.
Yeah. Caught out just a little bit here, wanting to buy space for Peanut as best he can, and he should be able to do so quite well. Peanut now with one of these Void Grubs remaining. Now Peanut diving in. There's the 2-man pulverizes. Yike's in a bit of trouble. Zeka, he'll turn up. Doesn't have Emperor's Divide back available just yet as the Void Seeker barely going wide. Conquering Sands not finding the mark either, as this tree is looking pretty durable, but not durable enough as Zeka is going to answer. Picks up the return kill here for HLE, and I believe they also got, no, never mind, one grub going over to KC.
Yeah, Yike was able to steal one on the way out, but because he had no flash from that earlier invade, Zeka was always going to be able to chase him down, and HLE do, again, win out. They're being able to punish some of these missing resources really, really well.
And I feel like I've seen Delight in that exact spot in like 3 separate plays now, and every time, either he's fine or he ends up dying, but the play ends up working out. And we see a lot of this also happening before Hanwha Live have a lot of their big team fight ultimates available, looking mostly towards that Cyclone. Viper doesn't need to respect, but Burst alone from Caliste not going to be enough, and we do see now level 6 being slowly hit across the board.
Yep, Canna level 7 here towards this bottom side, really pushing that advantage. Currently 300 gold ahead in that individual matchup. But the CS not actually a margin that I was expecting it to be when I looked down there. As here's a flash pulverize, killer instinct from Viper all the way behind the KC bottom lane, and Peanut throws out the Cyclone for fun. The bullet time's there as well. Viper takes a bit of damage, but they do exactly what they're supposed to and take down Caliste.
Look at that flash timer, by the way. Look at it.
God.
It's about to come off. By the time he respawns, it'll be back up. But that is exactly, I think, an issue that's going to keep plaguing Caliste throughout this game. SMF, this time it's the light that's flashing on you. Peanut still has his available for a subsequent fight, as Delight really wants this wave to go into the turret. And I think Targamas is able to slow it down. Now at this point, Caliste with the Strut is making his way back into the lane, but that right there is going to be a continued issue. And the fact that Peanut is getting, again, pretty fed up of these assists and these plays is a big deal.
And I think it's kind of going to come down a lot to a concept we saw yesterday with HLE versus TES, where it's kind of who can engage first and put the other team on the back foot. We saw HLE doing such a good job of always having Jackie Love on the back foot, which created space for Viper. And I think KC have got to do the same thing, because if Caliste is ever the one getting engaged on, he's never going to get an opportunity to go for that bullet time. So we're going to have to see, Yike and Targamas creating those opportunities and buying that space for Caliste.
The one thing that is good for KC is that they have the tools, right? Between the Maokai, the Jayce gate, as well as the Taliyah, these are some incredible disengage tools. So you're really looking to kind of know where Hanwha's coming from, absorb the initial blow, and then go back in. Or you have to be to an objective first, but we'll have to see if they're actually going to be able to do so. At that point, you have the zone control with the Maokai ult, as well as the Taliyah rocks.
I do feel like it's a little bit more like finesse-based in order to execute it on KC's side. Because like you say, it has to be disengage and then lure them into that false sense of security so that they've hard committed. You find that bullet time angle that allows you to lock it down. So I think as a result of that, vision going to be extraordinarily important, as Zeka is going to be walking over some rocks, trips over, grazes his knee a little bit, but he'll otherwise be absolutely fine. Checking in on the CS, it's like 5, not really too much of a big deal there, but the 1 kill putting Zeka in the lead by about 400 gold. But honestly, when it comes to gold, things like that, 500 is the whole story of it. So not really much to talk about just yet as far as advantages on either side.
And no dragons have been taken yet. And as we get the grubs in 20 seconds, I think it's going to be a little while before those are actually taken. As this is Zeus actually using his equalizer. Not going to have that available for a possible grub fight.
Yeah, I think he was nervous about a potential dive coming in again. He obviously doesn't have a lot of vision on that side of the map. You can see there's no deep wards for them. So he doesn't know where Maokai is. And I think Rakan had briefly gone into vision, so wasn't sure, is it a repeat type play? Instead, he'll just drop the equalizer. He has his TP back up, so goes back to base, plays it safe.
Well, as we can see here, Peanut looking for a little bit of an angle, not really finding one there, as I believe he was spotted on that cheeky ward around the grubs. Zeus is teleported towards the bottom side of the map. Both teleports on cooldown here for HLE, but they're still going to start up these grubs.
I think they just want to get 1 or 2 because they are down to teleport, right? Canna can TP in and Zeus can't stop him.
Yeah, so there is one of them. Vladi going to be getting towards the top side of this fight. These grubs going to be split as there's the Weaver's Wall. In goes Delight, but he gets flung back immediately. That cow is a stake immediately. And Peanut just wanted to be cheeky. Will be able to grab another grub here, and now they're looking to try and exit the fight. Peanut's going to need to flash preemptively there as well, not wanting to get twisted advanced on, as Nimbus Strike will be able to buy him a bit of space. Canna catches up there, and a Cyclone going to be used defensively. Unfortunately, Targamas doesn't make it in, but it doesn't matter, and Zeka whiffs the ultimate completely. Is that grub worth it, HLE? That's the question, because they also lose the feats of warfare.
Not only that, they're probably going to lose a dragon for that as well, and I think the moment that they saw that Zeus had to use his TP to go back towards the bot side, Hanwha Live never really wanted to fully commit to it, but KC actually pull off the chase, get on top of their backline, and get a couple of crucial kills.
I mean, it just seemed like a lot of greed from HLE. I think they should have been happy with just getting the 1 grub and denying 4 from their opponent, but instead they say, but what if we stay around and we get the 4th grub ourselves? And they did go for it. I feel like maybe Zeka could have stepped a little bit more forward to use the ultimate, disengage a little bit preemptively, but he was worried about being the target himself, so at the end of the day, you lose the flash, you lose Peanut, you lose Delight, and it's just for that 4th grub.
And if Delight has 6, maybe that play works out, right? Because they can't just collapse on him, but he got popped in seconds there. Actually nicely done there by KC, cognizant of the fact that the Delight not that tanky if you can catch him off guard, and that does mean that the gold lead, which has been, again, very even, now swinging again in the favor of KC, and that Dragon is a big deal.
Yeah, and Vladi being able to pick up a kill. I mean, he's just been so good for KC. You know, really, to me, when I watched the LEC playoffs, he was the star of the team. Obviously, Caliste, there's so much hype around it, but Vladi was going so crazy in those games, you know, was someone who was able to actually get the best of Caps, which has not really been happening in the LEC for many, many, many years. And it's just been fun to watch the development of Vladi, of Caliste, to have them coming up and to see how successful KC has been able to be, you know, really in their first year with this roster altogether. The improvements from last year are crazy.
Yep, it's really impressive. And I completely agree with you, but I think this tournament, the story has been a lot more about Canna. Exactly right. And if all of them are going to be firing at the same time, that could spell some difficulties here for HLE that we're already starting to see possibly crop up. As we do round the 14-minute mark, these turret plates are going to be falling down. Some decent platage being picked up in a couple of these lanes, but no turrets under threat just yet.
Delight is in that back brush last time we saw him, so he's been waiting there for quite a long time. He's going to be looking.
Yeah, Vladi does have the rocks on the ground, so can't actually use them to stop that headbutt. The flash forward from Viper, and that will be a kill. Shutdown coming in for the Kai'Sa.
Oh, and that is flash invested. If he had the shield on Archangels, if that was a Seraphs, he might have lived. Instead ends up going down. Gives the shutdown to Viper as well, who says thank you for the money, and Delight sets up the play yet again.
I mean, Delight was just there for a long time. He had been waiting in that brush for 30, 40 seconds, I want to say. Very patient, knew someone would be able to come up there and answer that wave. The fact that it's a shutdown is insult to injury, and they're going to be able to get that tower.
Oh, man.
Oh, maybe? Okay, it's going to go down. So, yeah, they get the first brick.
That's that fourth grub value, okay?
There you go, paying off.
So, like, maybe it's already worth the investment. It's definitely not, as Delight's going to get knocked up here by Targamas, but not anything else going to happen. Kind of pushing on this bottom side, and he's gotten quite a ways through this turret as well, as Peanut's going to come down, try and stop him. Not actually going to get rid of that vision, as you can see Zeka making his way in, and this is another turret that is likely going to fall. There it goes.
That means
the answer comes through, and everything very even, as once again, Delight is pulverizing. Caliste going to get stunned up there by the trample, and he is dead once again.
Yeah, just way too far up there. A little bit of greed on that top lane push. You know, he saw, okay, maybe multiple people are down on bot side. Maybe I'm going to be safe here. Wukong's down there, but does not respect where Delight could be. Walks up to hit the tower.
there is a classic Atlas bit, as we have the MasterCard lane economy snapshot. I want you to look at specifically that gold lead on Delight, about how Hex Flash, you know, you want to flash just to get it.
Oh, yeah.
And then, you know, in Delight's case, I'm like, yeah, you know what, he makes it work. I think
you're not getting any value if something is off cooldown.
You gotta get value.
You gotta
of your
get
runes.
it ticking immediately. And Hex Flash is broken because it's available while there is also something ticking. So absolutely beautiful stuff, and I'm glad that you brought that up. Hex Flash makes me happy every single time I see it. And Delight, of course, on his cow is never going to disappoint.
Obviously, sucks that Caliste died, but I will say I'm glad he didn't flash. You know, he was absolutely dead to rights, and if you flash in that spot, then you're cooked for the next fight as well. Herald now spawning. Dragon's going to be up here in 50 seconds, and it's going to be a march towards those objectives to see who will get the feats of warfare.
And
this is actually, this is a really important time as well. Sorry to cut you off there, Chronicler, because this has been the time where HLE has created all of their advantages. They've sometimes had a few like weird things in the early game, but this is where they really take control. And so KC, they're going to have to stay vigilant.
Well, the item spikes as well, hit one item on either side, but I think Hanwha Life, they're going to be feeling amazing. That Triforce on Peanut is big.
Well, there's the Nature's Grasp. Cyclone there for Peanut as well, as the Rift Herald is being ignored. Down comes the Rumble as well. Equalizer not in the most perfect position, but they split up the fight. They managed to take down the tree. And it is the Herald being secured here by KC. But they don't walk away with their tree and their jungler.
Yike's steal is successful though, and it feels very reminiscent of the earlier play where the team fight goes the way of the other team. Yes, you get the objective, but you are going to lose the dragon, and we're going to see what the soul is, I think, shortly.
And that puts them at 2 out of 3 of those objectives. So KC now only 1 objective away from claiming those feats of warfare. Of course, it will be traded back for the dragon on the other side. But this is only the first objective claim for HLE because they never got a full set of those 3 grubs. And meanwhile, Canna just pushing up on that top side, playing heavily through side lanes, just trying to keep that farm up. Of course, Zeka will be able to defend the top lane tower for now, but a very close game, and I gotta say, KC definitely coming out ready for this series and looking really locked in.
Not gonna lie, feel like it is more competitive than I was expecting after seeing HLE dismantle TES yesterday. KC looking fantastic in the early stages of this one. Going to have to continue that way, absolutely, but so far so good. As we have a look at this fight one more time.
The big thing here is Yike is actually able to, by the cost of his life, make it all the way over. There's an attempt there, but you see the immediate cancel on Caliste's ultimate, right? It's going to remain an issue for him, as I think actually channeling a full ult when you're that close to the light is just never going to happen.
And that was at 1187 he smite that, by the way. So that's basically a perfect smite that he actually had to secure it from Yike. So well done by him to be able to grab that and get in, grab the Herald. So, at least is able to walk away with that, still has that in his pocket. Could use that maybe next, next objective that's coming up, next dragon that's coming up, to try to drop that mid lane and try to get them prio there and look towards that final objective for Pizza Warfare.
Yep, now moving down towards the bottom side just to make sure that Vladi's going to be safe as he is pushing this wave in. Viper and Caliste just chilling out in this mid lane, and nothing really going to come of it. Next objective is going to be Rakan, that's coming up in about a minute and a half. Don't know whether anyone's going to be fighting over that too soon, but we'll just have to find out.
There is also the fact that we're dealing with a mountain dragon. I think KC going to be happy that they got that one Drake, because for their comp, I do actually think that they can run into damage issues. None of their characters are really good at dealing with extremely beefy targets, and there aren't really any big tanks on the side of Hanwha Life, but if they're able to actually get to that mountain, I do think they're going to lose a lot of their power. The Jayce poke also loses some of his impact, so these team fights going to be incredibly important. And that has been where I think we've seen the biggest gap between Hanwha and any other team, is in the actual 5v5s. The amount of times where it feels like a game is relatively close, and then they fight for 0 and the game just kind of ends. It's happened many a time, but KC, they don't want to make that happen as they get the mid lane turret here, are going to be able to open up the map with that.
Yeah, will be traded on the bottom side, though. No one going to be answering Zeka, so he gets ISO gold down there. He's going to be able to open up his own advantage, and Zeus realizing not in a position to actually take this fight, but we'll cancel the recall now.
He cancels it. We'll be able to get that point-blank harpoon as the flash out from Canna, flash to immediately follow there from Zeus, and he just cooks him. Solo kill from the sneaky rumble in the top lane.
Yeah, and Canna, I think he was just caught chopping. Like, he went back in, he started recalling even though he was getting hit already. And unfortunately just didn't have eyes on it. Now they're going to go straight for Rakan, and that could be the kill that breaks the game open.
Yeah, Canna isn't going to be here for the longest time, and even though Rakan makes you insanely squishy, you can see as well, KC, I think, caught a little off guard. They have a lot of AoE damage, though. I just don't know if they're ever going to get to this pit. Look at the light there.
It's going down so incredibly quickly. Viper, yeah, no, it is just gone. Yes, they see it, but that's all they're going to see is Taliyah going to cancel all of that CC with his ultimate, and now realizing that they weren't actually going to go for a fight. It might be that they can get the cow, although he just flashes, gets himself out of there, and Rakan going to be picked up. They picked all the flowers as well. They had time to harvest even after all that, as Viper looking for his opportunity, but it's a little dangerous as Targamas moves up, and he's hit by a space plant.
And you can see the rewards now in the experience. You look across, it's a level lead for every single role, and some of them are closing in, on even more than that now. So HLE, just like that, a great pick on the top side, use the teleport, they recognize their advantage, and they're just the best team in the world at finding these windows and recognizing there's nothing you can do here. We will just go for it.
It's literally just a single mistake from Canna, and it's even more understandable because when he died, there was a lot of backup. Targamas and Yike were actually in the area, so it makes sense that he felt safe to actually go in for the push on that turret. But Zeus' trap now putting Hanwha on a, as you point out, great experience lead. Obviously, as I already mentioned, I think it's going to be really hard for KC if Hanwha Life is able to stack the dragons. That's only going to get worse now with the extra buff that they get from the Rakan. And this next Drake fight is going to be, I think, a must-win for KC. We are hitting the 2-item spikes. Hopefully, Canna is able to transform. We also have Leandry's done for Vladi. Second item for Caliste. That Essence Reaver is in the pocket as well. And if they can get to this objective first, I think that's going to be huge.
Opportunities there. As now Zeus pushing here towards the bottom side, but there's a teleport just behind him. Yike moving in. Throws down the ulti as Zeus says, well, I guess I'm not going that direction. Now realizing, I think, that he's probably going to be dead as there are rocks all over the ground. He gets flung backwards, and there goes the rumble. Really good timing on this one as the Drake just spawning right now. And KC answering back beautifully.
Yeah, that's actually huge because not only did they get the kill on him, he has no teleport, and they got the teleport answer out of Zeka. So big play there from KC, punishing the side lane.
Well, Weaver's Wall going to come through here once again. Vladi looking for an opportunity. Seismic shove going to hit onto Viper. And the Shock Blast to follow up. That punishment just insane as he's still burning down. Sitting at about 150, and he's going to have to blast cone his way out of this one. The rest of HLE just trying to play defenses. I don't think Delight is going to be as lucky as his AD carry. We'll have a Pulverize, I think. Yeah, there it is. And then he's dead. And so the Drake gonna go over towards Yike at the same time. Dragon advantage here for KC as well as a couple of kills.
And it's back-to-back oopsies from XT1 top laners that set up a whole cascade of events. First it's Canna getting caught, leading to the other Khan going down. Then it's Zeus pushing really far up, and realistically, you should know that there are so many people that are going to be in the area for KC, right? The Dragon is such an obvious objective, was about to come up. That alone is already rough. I think is nice for KC. Get the kill, as you point out, dig out the TP. They get the Dragon, but oh, Caliste.
Oh dear, there's a Cyclone. Zeka gonna turn up. These Sand Soldiers doing some work. Doesn't actually hit Caliste with the ult though. Only on to Targamas as now the Nature's Grasp. The flash from Zeka is aggressive, but the Seismic Shove is better, and Zeka will be taken down. Twisted Advance does it, but now Zeus is going to turn up the Equalizer. He's going to soften them up and then knock him down. Canna goes to the skies, looks to get some revenge against Zeus, but Yike is so far in. Now doing battle against a Delight that's only just come back, and Peanut wants to get some revenge himself. Behind enemy lines is this tree, and Yike should be falling, although he makes it back to the rest of his team. He's running, and it's actually Delight that falls eventually. He does go down, but I'd say that there should be a worth in all chat. There's another teleport to bring Zeus into this mid lane as he's booking it towards Canna once again. Caliste will have the damage though, and Zeus is just gonna fall. The bullet time to rain on through, and that thumbs up. That's a good one there, Caliste.
That is massive for KC. They get the kills. Yike somehow is able to survive in this, and this felt like it was going to be an HLE1 fight, but Zeka goes forward. He doesn't have the soldiers actually in position to get very much damage down on Caliste early. A great reactivation of the Cyclone there from Peanut, but then this flash from Zeka puts himself in a really awkward position. He wanted to flash aggressively, could have just flashed back, played the fight out more slowly.
And then it looks like Hanwha Life is able to turn the tide. Viper's in the midst of them. Zeus is toasting people, and Caliste can't really join the fight because he's already taken so low. But then, in this extended chase for Yike, I think initially Hanwha Life are able to get on top of him. Obviously, he stays alive for so long. And this is still fine trading jungler for support. But then the TP from Zeus, the man just not on point, walks into an MF, who is full health, face first, and just dies.
Yeah, I mean, I did like the vibes, though, you know? It was just aggression. He wants to fight, he wants to battle. Maybe don't make that decision again, but where the thought came from,
Wait,
I appreciate.
You can't both like the decision and say he should have made it again, Atlas.
No, I can like it, just don't do it. Like, it's not good, but I like it.
You can like eating one slice of cake, but maybe the second is too much.
Exactly.
You know, you'll feel a little bit sick.
Okay, that was not a good slice of cake. You can't tell me that. That was a bad slice.
What
well,
is
it depends if you're a KC fan. That was a great slice. That was delicious. Give me the whole thing.
Well, right now it is just going to be the game almost completely equalized. There's like a 500 gold lead or something like that. Nothing that has been broken open just yet as far as this game is concerned. KC do get themselves feats of strength, though. They have some fancy shoes that they can be putting on. And we'll see whether some of these advantages are going to work out.
I mean, we're 26 minutes in. It's pretty much dead even, right? It is going to come down to the team fights. You know, that's where people would have thought HLE would have that big advantage, but KC has been given as good as it got. They have been looking really strong in these skirmishes and getting the best of HLE a number of times so far this game.
We've also seen already in a few of these team fights the impact that Vladi gets to have with this Taliyah. It's so much harder for Peanut to actually reliably get on the backline because of the E. As we, as mentioned, do have those 2 items across the board. We have Viper already on his third as he was able to pick up a good amount of gold. Caliste just now finishing the IE as well. Huge spike to come in. And this next fight, if it goes decisively, might end up being the decider one way or another. If KC is able to finally best the Hanwha team fight presence, that should not only be them setting themselves up for Soul Win, but also a Baron possibly afterwards if the fight is decisive enough.
Not to mention the fact that this is phenomenal for the series as a whole, right?
Yep.
Because HLE have always just created a ridiculous advantage in the mid-game. It feels like every single game this entire tournament, there's been something that they've done and the other team has just fallen off a cliff. Well, there doesn't seem to be very many cliffs.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, they've been looking really, really good. They do have to be aware of the flash timers, though. Both Viper and Caliste spent their flash, but Delight has his.
Yeah, Headbutt Pulp comes in. Targamas should be able to make it towards Vladi if he wants to, but instead they turn it around. There's the shutdown onto Peanut. Delight has to get the heck out of there. Weaver's Wall comes through, but I think they've already won this battle.
And they might get even more. I mean, they're right by the Baron. The jungler is dead. They're going to go for it, absolutely. And now HLE have got to try to stop them 4v5.
Oh, this is a risky call though for KC. They could have gone for the Dragon. There are still a lot of teamfight ultimates available. Zeus, Zeka, Viper, and Delight all up there is available.
Oh, wow. Blowing the stopwatch very early here to Zeus as the equalizer comes down. Delight looking for an angle. In goes Zeka. Finds two with the ulti, but immediately he's thrown around. Does go into stasis eventually. Viper taken down. Zeus, the last man standing. He's got a flamethrower, but no hope. It's a double for Yike, and there goes the Baron. KC, they're looking to put themselves into a position to win this game.
This is madness. KC coming out on top in the fight. They go for a pick here, but it's on Targamas, and Vladi is over the wall. Gets the seismic shove. The charm is there on Peanut. And Caliste just lets it rip with the bullet time, knocks him down.
The entirety of KC is just ready, and here, Delight already taken very low. The poke from Canna as well as Vladi just hits. And Zeus, I think, a very early equalizer here. If he combos that when Zeka goes in, Vladi just pops immediately. Instead, so much damage is done. It's the Baron that finishes off Viper, who doesn't, and I think realistically so, doesn't have another opportunity besides just go in there. And now KC, that should be soul point as well for them being able to, and there we go, use that Baron to pick up the Dragon. And the gold lead now broken.
Yep, this is the first big lead that we have this entire game. And it's to the tune of almost 5,000 at this point in time. Is Canna going to be diving on top of Peanut? Peanut is able to Warrior Trickster away, but Cavalry will arrive. And HLE, they are really going to have to find something in the tank here if they want to win this one, as Nature's Grasp comes through once again. There's a wall there as well. The bullet time comes down as this Unbreakable Will is going to need to be exactly that, as Delight utilizes it to get rid of a whole lot of damage. But now the equalizer coming down. The quickness comes through from Targamas, not able to get on top of Peanut, but that doesn't matter. Empress back once again, hits two. It's a double for Vladi though on the other side. Canna going to be taken down, and now Zeus is looking to chase after Targamas and Yike. He has to sacrifice himself, but now it's Viper and Zeka chasing after the remainders of the Baron, as Yike should be chased out here by the Pigeon Man. And Targamas, I think he's probably going to be fast enough to get out as Yike. He's on vision. He's got that little sapling down, though, and we're going to need a shifting sands from Zeka to be able to catch up to this guy. And Twisted Advance, not quite enough. So that's going to be the shutdown. Zeka now has a whole lot of money, but I don't think they're out of the woods just yet.
They're not, but that was a really big moment. If KC just get that turret or able to rotate to completely take out that ring of inners, that could have been what I think put them too far ahead, but instead, Zeka finds a miracle.
I mean, it's Zeka that finds the miracle, but it required the setup first, because Zeus is able to force a flash, you know, with this engage here. They drop the equalizer, in goes Peanut, Caliste flashes away. Now this is the opportunity for Zeka to go because of the missing summoners. He finds his angle, gets in, gets both the carries, sweeps them into the waiting arms of Zeus. That is a game saver, and that is a 1-2 punch that you have come to expect from HLE.
And two big ultimates were already missing there. Particularly the Maokai ultimate, right, was used. They didn't really get too much out of that. That is a tool that I think is needed to provide the safety, as Peanut not doing the damage, but I do think that the initial setup, as you point out, was important there. And now gold lead still in favor of KC. Still them sitting on soul point, but Humble Life not going down without a fight.
Yeah, and Viper just bought a full item since we last checked in. He has a GA now, so that is a very rich Kai'Sa.
Yeah, it's also a bit of a different build as well. Hasn't gone for, you know, a bit of extra AP, the Nash's Tooth, not actually there, not building Azonias or anything like that, electing to go a lot more AD, and that's because you've got Azir and you've got Rumble. They need as much physical damage as they can possibly get, so a little bit of a different flavor of the Kai'Sa. Haven't seen as many of these physical ones as we have in the past.
And I kind of feel like it makes sense with the context of the game, because I think he's saying, you know, we have more threats, we have more consistent damage, so if I can get in the backline and trade my life out for that of Caliste, you know, play it really aggressively, or trade it out for Vladi, well then the damage that's coming through from Zeus and Peanut and Zeka is going to be enough to carry the fight. So, you know, with that thought process, I think it makes a lot of sense, especially considering this next dragon could be absolutely game deciding. If you give the soul over, that is huge for KC. So having GA for that one fight is big.
It is looking, besides that, stopwatch is done for both Zeus and Zeka. Vladi also sitting on an arm guard, so that cooldown is going to be huge. It looks like neither AD carry is going to have the flash available, at least at the beginning of the fight. So both Caliste and Viper need to be careful, but Viper has a lot more built-in safety just with E ult, as well as now that GA bot. So we're going to have to see how KC can keep their AD carry safe. 4 items now that LDR going to shred through everyone on Hanwha Live, and the setup here being done again. KC, their composition, it's so hard to retake space versus particularly that Maokai, but even the Taliyah doing a lot of heavy lifting there.
Yeah, not to mention the scouting that the saplings do give you. If you don't necessarily get to the objective in time, you can just throw them in to see what's going on. Absolutely fantastic. So now HLE going for a bit of a reset, and as we tick over to like 35 seconds until the Dragon, that is going to be exactly where everyone has their eyes on. The Baron, not actually giving that much gold. Rebel Baron power play, I think, was under about 1,000. And so that is going to bring this game back to under 3,000 gold. The difference, it's going to be an honest team fight for either side to try and take this. But KC, so much more than that they can gain with this Mountain Soul being available.
And KC did just want to poke. Hanwha Live, they are the ones that need to be proactive. They're the ones that need to go in and make the big plays. They do have great taken control here of the river.
They just sort of
wandered in.
Yeah, the monkey and the cow just sort of like going forward. Pigeon getting involved now as well, as Zeka throws out some Sand Soul. Just this Dragon already down to 50%. Yike wanting to move on over. Let's see whether this Nature's Grasp comes down. The Equalizer is going to be preemptive though, as Delight going to get rooted, does have his Unbreakable Will, and HLE, you can just get them yourselves out, but instead they're looking for a team fight as Zeka finds some Sand Soldiers. The quickness going to get interrupted, and the charge comes through, knocked up as well, but he just shifts the sands, gets himself out.
TP.
Now without Delight, they're going to teleport on top to see whether they can take down HLE. Vladi going to get harpooned. He looks for some of these shots as Zeka goes golden with that Zhonya's, and in the meantime, Peanut is just going to get melted. 2-man on the Emperor's Divide is not quite good enough as Caliste taking the damage here as the GA is going to be popped as well. Man, that Bloodthirster looks completely broken as he one-taps Viper, and that could just be the end of the game.
And Delight is going to be up in 10 seconds, but I don't think he alone can do it. And Hanwha Live, they got the Dragon. But if it comes at the cost of the Nexus, no one's going to be calling worth. And Caliste being alive means that there's so much damage. We'll see 25 seconds for Peanut here.
I don't think they're going to be able to do it, as Delight just needs to try and get in there and stop this wave from getting towards these Nexus turrets. I just don't think he's going to be able to do it. What is he going to do? Like, moo aggressively in their direction? I don't think that's going to happen. Trying to headbutt Caliste away does make a fair bit of sense here. As down goes Delight, and look at this. These turrets do not last long enough at all. The first Nexus claimed will be that of HLE's after they chose the blue side here in Game 1.
And the Hanwha Live Game 1 win streak ends just like that.
It's KC coming out on top, absorbing that engage. HLE trying to force there, but the Equalizer was on no one. Delight got nothing done with his engage, and KC gets the chase down, punished massively. Vladi with that teleport, chasing after him, getting Zeka incredibly low. He tries to go for the hero play, but he didn't have the juice to knock him down. Caliste on the other side with the rest of the team, able to finish him off and just push for the win. It's a massive start from KC. They have got to be ecstatic.
And that was incredible too, because the game was so extraordinarily close. Every single moment throughout had to be played exceptionally well. Everyone had to be extremely locked in But now it is time to throw it over to the space to break down the KC victory here in game 1.